You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So, if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your, stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Arielle Ford. How bad relationships transform us and open us up to change. Ladies, oh my gosh, I have like a love icon here for you. If love is your thing, you're gonna be so excited. So kind of buckle up for this conversation. You're gonna be surprised because it's not what you usually would imagine from the one and only Arielle Ford, who I'm sure you know is a celebrated love and relationship expert. She's an author, she's a speaker, and she has been helping people find love and most importantly, be loved for such a long time. She is absolutely a gifted writer, and she has written 11 nonfiction books, including one you probably heard of called The Soulmate Secret, Manifest the Love of Your Life with the Law of Attraction. She's also written another famous book, Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate, and also Wabi Sabi Love, which I think I interviewed you for that, Arielle, which is about finding perfect love in imperfect relationships. And now she has taken a leap and written a novel, which I'm so inspired by as I sit here and write my first self-help book. Her book is called The Love Thief, which is a roller coaster ride of love, betrayal, and unexpected transformation with a juicy subplot of revenge and a very fun surprise ending. One person who read it said The Love Thief is an emotional journey where you'll finish so completely satisfied you'll need a cigarette. I love that. That is so good. Okay, so first of all, I mean, I'm a writer. And, I hang out, in writing courses and in writing communities. And I feel like the people that write novels are like special. Like, I'm like, how do you make something up out of nothing? But I have a sense that it's really not out of nothing. You said it like it was in you. It had to come up. So tell us the story. What happened?
Well, writing a novel was never, ever on my to-do list. And 5 years ago, this first line to a story came into my head. The first line is, "My mother was right." And it's like, ooh, what is that? And then this story started to unfold in my head like a movie. And I was like, well, this is not what I normally do. Go away, go away. And at the same time that was happening, I got an email from masterclass.com announcing they were doing a new course with Dan Brown, who wrote Da Vinci Code. He's my favorite writer. And it was on how to write a thriller. And I thought, well, I'm never going to write a thriller, but I'd love to spend time with Dan Brown. So I signed up. And on the third video, his whole talk was on location as a character in your book. And by this time, I'd seen the movie in my head, and I knew it was taking place in Rishikesh, India. And I thought, wow, well, if I'm ever going to write that book, which I'm not, I would have to go back to Rishikesh because I've been there as a tourist, but never as a writer looking to feel and see and hear and encompass, all the feels of Rishikesh. So the story kept coming, and I kept watching Dan Brown, and the story wouldn't go away. And finally, I got so annoyed. I just said, okay, God, if I'm really supposed to write this book, then I need to manifest a $7,000 business class ticket to India. And I thought, now I'm off the hook because that's not going to happen.
I love this. You're like bargaining with God.
I was bargaining with God. And 2 days later, the ticket was in my hand and I went to India. And that's a whole other long story, but it was just like magic.
That is, it's funny because when I first started my business, I had nothing. I was a nursery school teacher. And I had that same sort of thing. I was like, okay, God, if you want me to start a business, I need to get like, $10,000, whatever it was, to start a website. And then 2 days later, my dad called me and was like, wow, your mom left you money. I didn't even know about that. And I was like, okay. You're my partner in this. We're going. So you got in a plane 2 days later?
Well, no, the money came 2 days later,
Oh,
and
okay.
it went about a month later. But I was so shocked, I was like, oh my God, how did this happen? And by the time I did get to Rishikesh, I knew a lot of the story, the big picture of the story. And as I walked the streets of Rishikesh, everything that I needed, I tripped over. The scenes, the people, the events, and it all started coming together. And then I got home and I thought, well, now I'm going to have to sit down and write. And I had never ever thought about writing fiction. I didn't know anything about writing fiction. So I just started writing, thinking, I'm going to totally suck at this. It's never going to happen. And I got about 10,000 words into it. And I decided to send it to two friends. One was a senior editor at Random House for a million years.
Okay.
And the other is an agent in New York who I was friendly with. And both of them wrote back immediately and said, oh my God, you can write, keep going. So I just kept going and going. And along the way, I discovered what I didn't know that I didn't know, because it was so much. This is the way I describe it. Let's say you're an excellent person at giving mani-pedis. Like that's
Right.
what you excel at. Everybody comes to you for mani-pedis and you're good at it and you can do it blindfolded with your hands tied behind your back. And then one day somebody hands you a scalpel and says, today you're doing brain surgery. That's how different writing fiction is from writing nonfiction. There's no relationship really, except they're both called writing.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing I didn't know how hard it was going to be. And I didn't know what I didn't know, because I would have been now I'm embarrassed that I even showed people my work early on because it's so different. It's like, like I sent it out to agents way too soon. And they were polite to me, but the stuff I sent them was pure crap.
There's so much in here. Well, first of all, so I was going to ask you, are you a pantser or a plotter? Because in the writing community, they say, like, are you writing by the seat of your pants or do you plot it out? So now we know that at the beginning you started out as a pantser. You just started writing.
And I didn't plot it out. I just knew sort of the big beats of it, but I didn't have character development, and mostly, so the book is really a book about a young woman who gets betrayed in the worst way possible by her fiance, by her best friend and business partner, and then by herself because she almost dies in a car accident, and she's at the bottom, she's at the pit. Now, did all of those things happen to me? Not really, but I had enough friends who went through that experience, and I held their hand through that experience, that I knew the roller coaster of emotions, ranging from pure rage and anger to the depths of depression and grief, that I could tap into those conversations in my head. And I'm a revenge person. When I'm upset with somebody, I want to fucking kill them, right? I want to make their life miserable. And I always said the best job I never got was being on President Nixon's dirty tricks committee. Oh
my God.
Because my imagination is vast and I can think of ways to really screw somebody over. So I incorporated all the ways I wanted to ruin these other people's lives, but at the same time, my heroine, Holly, gets sent off to Rishikesh by an auntie who says, you're a chef, you love to cook, go to my cousin's cooking school in Rishikesh. Now, this girl is anti everything new age. Her mother is a new age baby boomer, read Deepak Marianne Louise, goes to SVP cruises. And she's the opposite. She's the reaction to that. She doesn't believe in any of this stuff, thinks it's totally ridiculous. And she ends up in the holiest city in India and begins to have these unexplainable, unexpected, mystical experiences, which eventually lead to a healing. So I was able to utilize my life experience, every workshop I've ever been to, there's a piece of it in there somewhere, but it's not coming from my voice. I created this hero in the book who's a composite of everything and everybody, who just ends up healing this woman. So Did I know that's what it was going to be? No. The only thing I think I knew was that I had no choice. That
Oh, wow.
somehow this book was inside of me, kicking and screaming to get out. I couldn't avoid it. God had already proved to me that I was supposed to do it. And as much as I resisted it, there was a fun factor to it, because it was like nobody knew I was doing it. So if at some point I dropped out, I didn't have to answer to anybody,
Right. Oh my gosh.
right?
It
It
was
wasn't
your
like I
little
announced to the
secret.
world, oh, I'm pregnant. And in 9
Right.
months, I'm going to have a baby. And then people keep asking you. Well, nobody was asking. We were in lockdown, right? I had nothing else to do. I had no work, right? I'd been somebody who was traveling to do workshops and to speak. So I had nothing else to do anyway. So that's how it came to
I
be.
love it. Arielle Ford had a COVID baby.
I had
I love that. Okay, so I want to talk about this betrayal thing, because I love when you were saying, like, this idea about revenge, and because as a love coach, right, and I get this, you hear so many really tragic stories, right, of people who have come through so much betrayal, and the villain in this book is kind of an asshole, right? So what, like, when you thought about this character and real women who are going to read this book and just finally feel like, that this is resonant, it's such a universal, unfortunate experience, like what came into mind as you were writing in, as you were imagining
I
his
knew
story?
him, from not only my own experience. I never had anything quite that dramatic, but through 3 girlfriends, all of whom are household names. They were all famous, rich, and beautiful and smart. And they all had red flags, and they all stepped over the red flags. And they were all devastated and destroyed by a toxic narcissist. And so I was so curious, because I remember talking to each of them individually. It's like, well, he showed you who he was sort of on the 3rd date when he did such and such.
Right.
And I was the whole thing that drives women to do stupid shit, and I've done it too. So I'm not judging, It's like, what is that? And I wanted to understand it. And what I came to understand is that these guys, who I would call sociopaths, even though I don't have a PhD in that domain, is that what they do is they target women. So a smart, beautiful, successful woman becomes prey, which means if this happened to you in a really sick way, it's a compliment, because they don't go after ordinary average women. They just don't. All right. So if they went after you, what they know is that, why is she alone? Well, she's alone because she spends all her time on her career, because she gets so much satisfaction from it. And what she really craves is somebody who sees her, somebody who will whisper in her ear everything she always wanted to hear, and will wine and dine and romance her. So that's how they get in the door. They do this. They play the role of Prince Charming. And even though there's a voice in the back of her head that says, this is too good to be true, by the time they find out that that is true, that it is too good to be true, they're hooked. Now, you probably know who Dr. Helen Fisher is, right?
Yes.
She's the world's leading love anthropologist, genius woman.
Yep.
So I've interviewed her multiple times. And one day she said to me something that completely blew my mind. She said that getting over heartbreak is harder than recovering from a cocaine addiction.
I believe that.
Right? And it's because of the brain chemistry, right? When we fall in love, and I like to call the state of being in love the socially acceptable form of insanity. There's nothing about that state that has anything to do with true love, right?
Right.
We fall in love, our brain is on drugs, on oxytocin and adrenaline and dopamine, and it feels so good. We've got champagne bubbles running through our veins, and nothing's ever felt better. And we want more and more and more, like an addict does. But then when it's taken away, and we have no choice, we go through withdrawals and we suffer. So my ultimate goal with this book was to let people see themselves in it, but also know that there is healing on the other side, that when you can understand that you've been tricked, really, by the biggest trickster there is. You've been tricked. That you can get to healing and that there is love again on the other side. Only now you know what love is and what love isn't.
And that's so powerful of a message, because I think that so many women beat themselves up, right? They're like, I should have known. And so in this novel, we see this. And I love also that you made her like the opposite of the woo-woo mom, right? Like, she's the strong, successful, smart woman that we all want our young daughters to, like, we want women to be strong, independent women. And I just love that, because of that universal need to be loved, right? Like, she does fall for it. So tell me about what happened in India for you, and how, because you said that you fell in love with the idea of India becoming a character in your book. So talk about India and what it represents, and what's the lessons that we can learn through this experience.
I first went to India in 1997 when I was working with Deepak Chopra. He took me to his daughter's wedding in New Delhi. And from the moment I walked out of the New Delhi airport into the streets of India, I was smitten. I was just like madly in love with it, because nothing looked or sounded or felt or smelled or tasted like my life. Everything was different. And I was just mesmerized. You could drop me off on the corner of Connaught Circle and Woo Woo Street, and I could stand there for hours, because as you're standing there, a family of 5 goes by on a motorbike. There's the dad driving, who's got one kid in his lap. The mother's behind him with a baby strapped to the front and the back. And the motorcycle of 5 is driving past an ox-driven cart that has 20 feet of hay on it, while there's a dirty, skinny cow stopping traffic in the middle of the street. And this is in the capital of India. So I fell in love with India. I've been back 8 or 9 times since. I love being there. But when I got there on my research trip, I knew that a lot of the action of the book would take place in a spiritual bookstore. And so on my very first day, I got up really early, because it's a 12.5-hour time difference. I couldn't eat anywhere because it was like 5:30 in the morning and nothing's open. So I'm roaming the streets, and all of a sudden I see this thing. It's a spiritual bookstore on it. And
God,
it's not open yet, but I walk up the stairs and I look in the window, and it looks exactly like the bookstore in my head that I have been seeing. And that's the sort of stuff that kept happening over and over again. So all I kept doing was writing in my journal and taking notes and noticing, what's the quality of the color of the Ganges River right now? What are the sounds that I'm hearing? And because I was in Rishikesh, all I was hearing was the morning chants and prayers, with the sound of the river rushing by. And then there's these little tuk-tuk carts that, people ride around in, and they all have the funny horn sounds. Some of them sound like, the Land of Dixie song, and you hear in New Orleans, where there's these little beep, beep, beeps. It was just like being on acid, but very awake, because it was a kaleidoscope of everything.
I love that. So tell me about the naughty reading and those experiences, and what that is.
Okay, so most Americans have never heard of a naughty reading, and I never heard of it too until Deepak told me about it one day, and then actually took me into the jungle in South India to have one. So 5,000 years ago, there was a seer, a sage, who wrote down the future of lots of people on a palm leaf, and he wrote it in ancient Tamil. And if you had what the naughty reading, palm leaf reading, you would sit down with a Tamil priest who would read the ancient Tamil, while you have somebody who would translate it from ancient Tamil to Hindi to English, or what I like to call Hinglish, because even though he's trying to speak English, you can't really understand it. And on this leaf, when they find your leaf, your whole life is there. So the first time I had this reading, I remember it took about 45 minutes till they found my leaf, because they would say things like, your mother's name is Sandra. No, okay, that's not your leaf. You work as a healer. No, okay, that's not your leaf. Eventually, they get to this leaf and they say, you were born on an early Monday morning. Well, I don't know what day of the week I was born on, but I just assumed it was right. So I said yes. And they said, you were born in late December. Yes. You were born on December 29th. Yes. Your mother's name is Sheila. Yes. Your father's name is Harvey. Yes. Your husband's name is Brian. Yes. You have a brother and a sister. Yes. Your father had 2 wives. Your mother was the first wife. Yes. So that, and then that's after they get that. Then they tell you your entire life history up until the moment that you're sitting in front of them. This happened, that happened. You went to college, you work in the field that you studied, all of these kinds of things. And then they start telling you the future. And then when they get further down the line, they say to you, are you interested in knowing the date, time, and circumstances of your death? Now, most people say no, but I said yes, because on an India visit prior to that, when we were in Varanasi, which is the other holy city, I had a Vedic palm reading in the lobby of the Taj Hotel. And I remember this guy looking at the palm of my hand, and he at one point said to me, oh, you will live to be 84 and a half years old. And I was like, yeah, sure, dude. What line says that? And I didn't buy it at all. And I thought, God, this was just a waste of time. Now, here I am, 3,000 miles south of Varanasi, the southern part of India, and they're telling me all this stuff. And I do the math on it. Exactly 84 and a half years old is what I've been told twice, my lifespan. So
how does that make you feel? That's like
I was thrilled. I was totally thrilled. My father died at 67. So for me, 84 and a half was a bonus. I thought that's great.
You're so happy.
Couldn't have been happier, but I did have one really funny thing happen in the middle of the thing. I could see my translator and the priest sort of arguing in a language I didn't understand. And I could tell that they saw something on my leaf that they didn't want to tell me. And I said to them, I don't care what it is you're seeing. I'm a big girl. Tell me what it is. And Babu, my translator, looked down at his feet and in a very quiet voice said, Madam, I'm very sorry to inform you, you will not have any children in this lifetime. And I said, yeah, I know that. That was by choice. I never wanted to have any kids. And he's like now translating it to the priests, and they're like, not understand, like that's the weirdest thing they've ever heard. And I'm like, of course I'm not going to have kids. I didn't want to have kids. So then he says to me, well, would you like to know why you will not be blessed with children in this lifetime? It's like, sure, why not?
Go right.
So they say to me, in your last past life, you lived here in Tamil Nadu, and you were the only child of very good parents. And you grew up to become a healer. And as a healer, you performed many illegal abortions, which is why you have not been blessed with children in this lifetime. Now, I'm in a room in the middle of nowhere that has one light bulb hanging from the ceiling in an outhouse. There's no internet, there's no way they can look me up. Brian is in the next room getting his reading, being told the same thing. You were not going to be blessed with children in this lifetime. And he's like, yeah, I know that. Do you want to know why? Well, because in your past life, basically they said to him, you're a slut. You cheated on your wife all the time. And you got a lot of unmarried women pregnant, which is why you get no children in this lifetime. So a naughty reading is this crazy thing that goes beyond anything. And the weird thing is that when you walk in the room, the only thing they know about you, they don't know if you're male or female. They don't know your name. They don't know your date of birth. They have your left thumbprint. That's all they have is your left thumbprint. So in the book, Holly has a naughty reading, and it's very interesting what goes on with that, and it changes her life. And so when I say I get to use my whole life in this book, all the experiences I've had, emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, I just wrote into the script.
That's amazing. Okay, I have to ask you this question because This is an interesting one. The Beatles song, All You Need Is Love is a Big Lie.
Yes, it is a big lie.
I agree with you.
Okay, so the song "All You Need Is Love" is
Right.
sort of the soundtrack for the New Agers, right? All you need is love. You know, love is letting go of fear. If you have love, everything else will fall into place. Except when it comes to relationships, love
Right.
is not enough. Okay,
Yes.
and you and I both know this. We teach this. You know, you could love somebody like crazy, and they could be the most horrible partner for you. Because in order to have lasting, long-term love, relationship, marriage, what you need somebody with whom you're compatible, you have connection, you have strong communication, which can be learned, you have chemistry, although chemistry is certainly the least important at the end of the day.
Right.
And the most important is having a shared vision for the future. Do you guys want to live in Portugal?
Right.
Or do you want to live in the mountains? Or do you even want to live in the same house? And do you want to have kids or do you not want to have kids? And so all you need is love is this myth that keeps women in relationships that aren't good for them because they're all, but I love him. But it's not enough. You know, it's just not enough. So I think all you need is love is the biggest lie out there. Because yes, what we know, if you've been in a long-term marriage, you can love your partner and there will be days when you absolutely hate them. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them. And this is because people don't really understand what love is. They think love is a feeling. Love is this feeling of, oh God, swooning, you know, and love is a behavior and it's a choice and it's a decision and it's an action and it's a way of being. And the feelings of love come and go. So if you're judging whether or not you should be with somebody based on how you feel, that's totally fucked up.
Right.
And so that's why I say all you need is love is the big lie. And of course, I didn't know that when I got married, right? And then I started having all these feelings like I thought he was my soulmate, you know, and I thought he was going to like make me happy. And I didn't know that I was in charge of my own happiness. I didn't know that I needed to go do the Hoffman process and get over my childhood wounds. I didn't know what Harville Hendrix says is the whole purpose of taking sacred vows is to create a safe container so all your childhood wounds can come up to be healed. That's the purpose of relationship is healing. And as we know, healing is fucking painful.
So painful. I love this. It's so yes. Amen, sister. Okay, let me ask you this. Is there such thing as a happy ending?
Yes. And the first time I wrote the book, I didn't want it to have a happy ending. I wanted Holly to go and fall in love with herself and have this experience. And that's the first time, that's where the book ended until I sent it to my two friends, the editor and the agent. And they both said, you can write, we love the book, but I really wanted a happy ending. Now, here's what happened during COVID. I had always planned a sequel, and the sequel was going to have the happy ending. However, once COVID became a reality and I was over 60, right, and I had some health risk factors, I thought, what if I die? I'm not going to be able to write the sequel and I've got nothing else to do. So since I know what the sequel is, it's all going to become one book. And now it's all one book that's over 100,000 words, which is a lot.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. But you're going to live till 84 and a half.
Well, yes, if the naughty readers are right. And the other thing I learned about the naughty readers, you know, because even I don't go to psychics a lot and I like astrology, but I don't use it as a rule. I use it as a guide. Like, is what I'm hearing aligning with what I'm thinking? You know, I use it that way. So what the naughty readers did tell me is that even with a naughty reading, nothing's in cement, that you could decide at 84 and a half, I'm not done yet, and go and have a bunch of pundits do pujas for you and say a lot of prayers and rituals, and you can extend your life. So even though as of today, you can get it, yes, you can get more.
That's amazing. I love this. I love you. I'm like so proud of you. I was going to ask you if there's a sequel. So we know now there isn't, but we might, if all the cards fall in place, we might be able to watch this at some point. on Netflix?
Yes, I have a producer, a big time producer in Hollywood who loves the story and wants to turn it into a streaming series. And that's a whole long process in itself. And I always saw it as a movie anyway. So hopefully that's going to happen, but I don't know. The thing that I've learned during this process is really surrender. Like, I don't know. I'm somebody who loves certainty and loves surrender. And through COVID, we learned that there is no such thing as certainty, and nobody knows anything. There's nothing that we know for sure anymore. So learning to live and be okay with not knowing has been sort of my biggest growth edge through all of this.
Writing will do that to you. That is for sure. Well, ladies, you definitely want to go get a copy of The Love Thief. You can go to thelovethief.com. I am an avid reader. It's an amazing story. It's a page turner. It's really, I was just thinking about this the other day because someone was talking about how a great book necessarily doesn't have to be well written if it's a great story, right? And so when I get to read something that's well written and a great story, I'm like, hell yes. So make sure it'll be good for your brain and your heart. And I just am so proud of you, and congratulations. And I just hope all our readers are buying the book, and then we're going to have viewing parties. We're just going to manifest. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm so glad you got to see an early version of it. And the book's coming out June 27th. But it's on pre-order now. And if you go to thelovethief.com and you pre-order it, I have this incredible bonus package. I had 10 of the top world's yoga teachers, people like Sean Korn.
Oh, that's amazing.
Negative emotion like anger, betrayal, grief, physical pain, and then show us the yoga pose and the yoga philosophy to heal the pain.
That is amazing. Okay, get it, pre-order it. I'm just so excited. Can't wait. Ladies, so much goodness from Arielle Ford. Check her out, thelovethief.com. And whatever you do, don't forget to life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.